Yep, still online, still unavailable. I might just have to go on to the DMV place.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Laverne Lewis, TriMet's board president. Thank you all for being here and for your patience this morning. Welcome to TriMet's Board of Directors meeting for October 22nd, 2025. We are gathered here today at One Main Place in our TriMet board room for our October meeting. We're also live streaming the meeting on YouTube. We also have 4 board members present, and on virtually we have Director Frisbee, good morning, Director Flowers, good morning, and Vice President Director Kim, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you for being here today. Someone's phone's on. Okay. We will begin this morning with our public forum. And for those of you who have signed up ahead of time and on virtual, thank you for being here. Members of the public who wish to testify this morning and provide some testimony but could not be in person will be joining us virtually. After we have heard from those that are here physically, we will then go to those that are virtual. For all of those who are providing testimony, please direct your comments to TriMet, TriMet Business, and TriMet related services other than other topics or personal comments. We also ask that the comments be limited to 3 minutes. I'll remind you, once you're up to speak, you will note that there will be a time indicator to help you comply with this request. And we ask you, please, to respect the time because there are many of those who wish to share their testimony with us this morning, and we want to hear from everyone in the time. If you are unable to limit your comments to the 3 minutes, please provide your comments in writing. Thank you to those who are watching virtually for the many letters that you have sent to us, and we welcome your letters as well. Also, please note that we appreciate all testimony and that if you ask a question or expect feedback this morning or raise an issue, it will be noted in the record, not from the board. If appropriate, the general manager will ask TriMet staff to speak with you, meet with you, or follow up later, and they will do that with you. Okay. Now I will call up to the testimony table. Let's see, we will do 3 at a time. That way we can give everyone time, ample time to do so. The first 3 is Gertrude Lynch. Please come up. Bruce Barnes. And David Tarlow. Just take a moment to read the sheet there that's in front of you. Will help you to turn the mic on and any other little notes you have there. Okay. Gertrude, are you ready? Yes. You may proceed. Turn your mic on. Okay.
That's it.
Perfect.
Good morning. My name is Gertrude Lynch. I'm here this morning to add some information to the TriMet board meeting. And I thank you all for giving me the chance to be able to speak this morning also. And some of the issues that I came up with is a problematic bus shelter that's on 82nd and Powell. I don't know if I can give the bus number out, but I do have it. Is it okay to give it out? The bus number is bus shelter number 4695, It's located on Southeast 82nd and Powell. The issues that we've been having lately is there's been a lot of homeless people. They're hanging out, doing drugs, and there are disabled people that need to be seated while they're waiting on the number 9 Powell bus going towards downtown. And it's been an ongoing problem. They're there like every day. These folks are. I don't know if the police are noticing that activity there or not, but it's been a problem. And also, the bus shelter on Southeast 82nd and Inslee is another one. The people that go to work and everything, sometimes the weather can be pretty bad. It can be rainy or it may be snowing. Who knows, especially here in Oregon. We don't know for sure. But anyway, that bus shelter does not have any windows, and I'm wondering why the windows are taken out of the bus shelters now. I don't know. Maybe someone from TriMet can explain that to me a little bit later in the meeting. But it doesn't have the windows, and people frequent that too. There's homeless people that are in that area too, also near 82nd and Foster. And I think if they had more security, maybe they could kind of look into this. The TriMet people could maybe kind of check these bus shelters out before it gets to be a big problem for the neighborhood or the folks that have to catch the bus and go from point A to point B. Also, I'm hoping that one day they'll be able to get a FX2 bus on the 72 line. That bus is overcrowded most of the time. Usually you find people that are sitting on the bus seat, passed out from whatever they've taken, whatever type of drug they've taken, and they're in that front section where people that are in a wheelchair wouldn't be able to sit, or someone with a walker or a cane need to sit in the front of the bus, the handicap section. These folks will lay there, and then they also get on the bus and they don't pay any money like you and I would pay when we get on the bus. They just walk on the bus and have a seat. Then they drag all kinds of stuff on the bus, like big sacks of cans and bottles, and this stuff is spilling out. Liquid is falling all on the bus floor and everything else. And so I'm just wondering, I have seen TriMet security sometimes on some of the buses I have. But I think at this point, something needs to be done about that. And I just wanted to bring you guys' attention about this, and hopefully someone can look into this. Then also, now the MAX is being renovated on 82nd. That is really difficult for people that are disabled, because you're kind of like, well, where's the elevator? You know, and they have stairs, but you can't go up those stairs if you have a walker or someone in a wheelchair can't master those stairs. But someone told me how to go ahead and you can master it, how you can go about getting on the MAX, going towards town or going towards Gresham. That's the issue that I was wanting to talk about today. That was another thing, but they're doing a great job, and I appreciate the folks that are working on getting these crosswalks on 82nd. That's a really big issue that we've had. The push light, where you can push the cross lights, for the yellow lights are flashing, so pedestrians can cross. And they're doing that right now. They're doing work on 82nd, and I really appreciate the city of Portland for doing that. You know, making it more safer for kids that are going to school and everything else. And I want to get back to that bus shelter. The problem, like, there's kids that go to school in the morning, they need to go sit in that bus shelter or walk past. They don't need to be seeing all the stuff that's going on in there, you know. But anyway, hopefully something will be done about that. Anyway, that's all I have to say for today, and thank you for giving me time to be able to speak today, Dr. Lewis, and all the other folks that make TriMet run as smoothly as it does, including the drivers. They have a lot to deal with. My hat goes off to all the drivers and workers that make everything work for TriMet. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to speak today.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Gertrude, and thank you for coming today to testify. Yes. We appreciate your words. Bruce? Okay.
Good morning, President and Council. My name is Bruce Barnes, for the record. I'm a lifetime resident of Vancouver, Washington, and I'm here to speak to the board here about the collaboration with the Interstate Bridge Project and Light Rail. I am against light rail coming into Vancouver for numerous reasons. One is I don't want to pay a toll. When you look at the toll of $10, that's $4,800 per worker coming from Washington into Oregon, and then having to pay a tax to work in Oregon as well, and getting no vote. My other concern is that this group has never met in Vancouver or met with the IBR collaboratively so the public can ask you questions, right? Because I've got some real questions. My dad started the Interstate Bridge Project. His name's Edward Barnes, 35 years ago. And from what I've read and what I've seen and what I've listened to at all the meetings I've been to, there's a lot of lies being told. A lot of lies. One of the lies was the interstate bridge was going to take $2 billion to get the light rail into Vancouver. Now your IBR team has come by last week at the CTRAN meeting and said, oh, no, it's only going to be $1 billion. Well, if the people hadn't protested like myself and others, where would that $1 billion have gone? Who's going to get it? My other question is have you paid companies upstream from the interstate bridge, because the Coast Guard is not approving the height, and they're going to try and pay these people off. Thompson Metal Fab and all the rest of them are receiving money or have received money, and I'm wondering if this bridge doesn't get built or they build a bridge somewhere else, is that money being returned? That's millions of dollars that are being paid out, right? There's some real questions here. The other question I have is, our CTRAN board is made up of nothing but politicians, and I am pleased to see that is not the case here. But I am concerned that a Democratic governor, right, and I'm a Democrat, but I'm extremely conservative. I'm a fiscally responsible person. I'm a blue Dem. I'm an old school Democrat that believes in the Bible, that believes in working hard, that believes in my civil rights, my constitutional rights that have all been taken away in my city. I can't even speak publicly except for one time a month at my city council. And the same persons that have taken that away are sitting on the CTRAN board. And they're also part of the board of directors that oversees the CTRAN. So let me give you an example. If you had a city council here that was made up of property developers, realty attorneys, and people that sell products to developers, but they were also your same city council, how do you think that would work? Not real well. And I got to tell you, there's been millions and millions of dollars spent on this bridge project already. I'd like to know where all that money was spent. Nobody's saying where it's gotten spent at, right? And that's my concern, and that's why I'm here today. We need to look into what's going on here. There is some collusion, there is some racketeering, and there is some theft by deception. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with, if I may, ma'am, it's not a real good look when you have a appreciation lunch for $75,000 when your people are getting laid off. That's called fiscal responsibility, right? And I've run a lot of work as an electrician, and I got to make a living in a profit for the company that I work for. And CTRAN and TriMet are making no profit. Their ridership doesn't outweigh the amount of money it takes to operate this. This is a business. Right? And my last thing to say would be, it'd be easier to have Uber drive people around. It'd be a lot cheaper, a lot more cost effective, and people could get to where they wanted to go. My final thing is going to be, the man that built Waterfront Park here, his name was Tom McCall. He had a saying, and you know what that was? It's a nice place to live, but don't move here. We're encouraging people to move here, and we have no jobs. We're encouraging people to live here that can't find a job, so we've all got to support them as property taxpayers. And I certainly thank you for your time and your professionalism. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for your passionate testimony this morning. David?
Good morning. My name is David Tarlow, and I am here on behalf of Washman Car Washes. We have 3 locations along 82nd Avenue, from Gleason down to Johnson Creek. We've been doing business on 82nd Avenue since 1995. We have a vested interest in the community that live and work in the area by providing living wage jobs, participating in community events, and contributing to local schools, community organizations, and local charities. While we support mass transit, we cannot support the 7-mile bat lane option from Lombard to Clatsop. The proposal is that 2 entire lanes of 82nd Avenue, both northbound and southbound, will be closed to motor vehicles, and that bus lanes will take their place, dedicated to 4 to 5 buses every hour, creating serious additional congestion, taking away 50% of 82nd Avenue's capacity just to speed up transit times by just a few minutes, but causing the same or worse corresponding delays for motor vehicle traffic. 82nd Avenue is a highway/corridor that drivers use to get from southeast Portland to northeast Portland, and it should not be turned into a local street. In most areas where BAT lanes have been implemented, there's been additional capacity to add such lanes. In this case, there is no additional capacity. The proposal would add serious impediments to the vehicles trying to get to 82nd Avenue businesses, destinations, and would lead to frustrated drivers, empty bus-only lanes, and more traffic diversion into local streets, resulting in those neighborhood streets becoming less safe for those residents that walk, ride their bikes, and kids playing, and cause businesses to relocate due to substantial loss in revenue. The congestion caused by taking away 50% of the lane capacity will not only result in increased congestion, as previously mentioned, but will also result in 82nd Avenue becoming a more dangerous corridor to drive on. I-205 is already at capacity, so those vehicles that normally travel on 82nd Avenue will no longer use that route. They will utilize neighborhood streets and take their shopping, etc., to other locations in the city to avoid the congestion and, as previously mentioned, cause businesses to eventually close their doors and move to more viable locations. It is our opinion that the 3-mile BAT lane option is more viable due to TriMet's budget constraints and would have less negative impact on businesses and surrounding neighborhoods, but still provide needed capacity at peak times, for example, McDaniel High School ridership before and after school hours. But before we can endorse that, we'd like to get additional data to determine the effect of that option before fully supporting it. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Gertrude, and thank you, Bruce, this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'll give you some money.
I'm in charge of bus fare.
Thank you. I'd like to call Michael Bjork, Dion Van Zee, and Deborah Taylor. Good morning, and thank you for being here. We will go ahead and start with Michael.
Good morning, and thank you, Board. My name is Mike Bjork from Bus Riders Unite. I'd like to address the Week Without Driving today. I work with Abby Griffith and many others to put together a community listening event in August that a couple members of your staff attended. We invited all of you to participate in the Week Without Driving. We hope to foster dialogue between you and the riders that you represent. It's important that leaders understand what it's like to rely on public transportation, and that's really the point of the challenge. After the challenge, Abby sent a couple emails to the board members requesting feedback if they had participated, but we didn't receive a response about the Week Without Driving challenge. Could I ask for a show of hands from anyone who participated in the challenge? Thank you. It's great to see that a couple people did participate. Abby will reach out to you again for your feedback. For those who didn't, I encourage you to think about how this feels to riders. The challenge is really easy. You don't even have to not drive. You can still drive, but the challenge is to reflect about people who can't drive. So we need leaders who can reflect on that when they're making policy decisions about transportation in this region. So I hope that you reflect on how they may feel for those who can't drive every week. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Dion?
Hi, good morning. My name is Dion Van Zee. I'm here professionally and personally. Professionally, I represent Washman Car Washes. We strongly oppose the 3-mile bat lane option because of the devastating effects it would have on the 3 car washes we have along 82nd. We believe it will cause massive congestion, drive too many vehicles away from the corridor. That being said, we support the LPA's enhancement that will come along with it, except for the placement of 2 new platforms, but Washman's confident, working with TriMet, that we'll be able to come to a solution that's reasonable in the coming weeks and months. Personally, I'm a person that uses 82nd a lot because I live within a mile of it. So I don't want to have to change my shopping behaviors because I visit a lot of the businesses along 82nd, like Winco, Food Bond Market, Best Baguette, BMO, Jiffy Lube, get my hair done on 79th and Division. And I would suspect if there was a 7-mile option that I wouldn't probably frequent as often because of what I think would be the congestion that comes along with it. And then also, another personal is my son is a TriMet user exclusively. He takes the bus to school and work every day. Luckily, he's 6'3", so he has some good stature to him, so he's never been targeted or, sought out as part of any kind of issue, but he has witnessed it happen to other people. I constantly have to talk to him about don't get involved, call 911, and just, it's better in the long run. I just hope that when you guys do the FX on 82nd, that you really take a look at security and how it will affect, because your ridership will go up if people feel more secure. So I would say less bat lanes is the biggest thing from me personally and professionally, being with Washman. And you guys are doing great things. There's a lot of good things coming with the LPA. The buses are going to be higher capacity. There's going to be more crosswalks, better lighting, wider sidewalks. So we're all supportive of enhanced ease of use and security. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dion. Deborah, you can.
Good morning. My name's Deborah, and I'm a Vancouver resident currently, but grew up in Oregon. I'm new to attending council meetings and board meetings. I was interested to see how things work and how things were taking place in my community. I have some concerns regarding the following. Vancouver residents voted down light rail 3 times. And when I go to these meetings, you hear resident after resident speaking that they do not want light rail. And there's many different reasons why. Light rail deteriorated the community I grew up in, and I saw it happen. I don't use public transportation myself because it's not safe, but I do know that people do need to use it. And just like this gentleman said, it'd be nice if it was safer. Your ridership would go up, I'm sure. I also see board members and how these boards are made up, and your board is made up of community and people, unlike C-Trans board, who is made up of politicians. I encourage you to view a couple videos. They're YouTube videos. They're regarding some things that took place. I was at a public meeting, and remind you, I'm new to all this, and I knew something was wrong when what I was hearing. The YouTube videos involve Mayor Ann, Councilor Paulson colluding and setting a trap for Michelle Belcott, and the county chair, Sue Marshall, was involved. They talked about setting the trap, giving the poison pill, and then next I heard Michelle was off the board. I don't know the ins and outs of it, the legalities of it or anything, but what I was hearing to begin with, I knew was wrong. I encourage you to view them. There's definitely something going wrong with the two different groups. I go attend the meetings and I don't see you guys there. Someone else mentioned having a forum where we can talk and ask questions, both this community and our community. I say no to light rail, and I also see my community saying no to light rail and also to no to tolls. Every other state you visit, we're not getting told to go back and forth interstate within a state. I don't want to pay $10 to come visit my mom and $10 to go home. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you all for your testimony this morning. If you have notes or, Deborah, your list of videos, you can leave it with staff. Okay. Okay, our next two for testimony is Zachary Lauritsen and Mr. Fonter. Okay. Turn on your,
Boy, everybody in
we
the back
go.
wants to hear. Here we go.
yes,
Good
that's
morning.
important. Okay.
Zachary Lauritsen. I work at Oregon Walks. We're a pedestrian advocacy organization. I also served on the 82nd Avenue Transit Steering Committee. I currently serve on the 82nd Avenue Community Advisory Group. And kind of the big topic at hand is where do people stand on the bat lane question? And I want to just be really clear, we're supportive of the full bat lane option. There's lots of moving parts on this project. There's lots of things we could testify about today, but I want to focus on one very specific thing, which is kind of how we measure success. You know, I think traditionally measure success in terms of, speed, reliability, ridership numbers. But I'm here to say that I think we can measure success in a bigger way. I think 82nd Avenue is going through a big transformation, and this is a place where we can see TriMet's role in this transformation. So there are metrics like, I hear from people up and down 82nd Avenue that they want it to be less like a highway and more like a main street. This project could play a role in that. I hear people up and down 82nd Avenue say they want it to be more walkable and rollable. This project could play a role in that. I hear from people they want it to be cooler, not like hip, but they want that too, but like temperatures. And this project could play a role in that. People want to see more housing on 82nd Avenue. This project can play a role in that. And so my point is that I think we need to zoom out and think holistically about this big project and how TriMet's role really is critical, along with PBOT, along with Prosper, et cetera. I also want to note kind of on that Main Street theme that a Main Street is only as vibrant as its businesses. And I personally know many of the businesses up and down. I know the folks from Washman. I agree that there's real concerns there. We want to make sure that the businesses thrive along 82nd. And so I'm here today to say that our group, 82nd Avenue Coalition, our partners, I think Prosper, I think TriMet, we also have a role to support our businesses along 82nd Avenue, whether it's programming or whether it's promotion or whatever it happens to be. We're all in this together. We want 82nd Avenue to be a thriving Main Street as well. And so we believe at Oregon Walks that people walking, rolling, and riding transit create a thriving business corridor, and that we can do that with full bat lanes collectively and together. Thank you.
Thank you, Zachary. Mr. Faulkner? Yeah, excellent. You have your mic on.
Good morning. My name is R.A. Fonts. My wife, Ruth, and I can't count on TriMet being there when we expected to rely on it most. Low ridership and high costs are on track to price it out of the market. For a century now, riders have been abandoning transit for new technologies. Now come robotaxis. How soon here? Who knows? They're nowhere near it now, but the potential is incredible, especially off-peak. Imagine a car at your door within seconds of a phone swipe, and then a fast, safe, comfortable, direct ride to your destination for less than 25 cents per mile per carload. According to its FTA filings, TriMet ops costs alone average more than 10 times that per passenger. How close they'll get to that potential and how long it will take, no one knows. Management's reaction has been to ignore and deny. The unveiling of the now zombie Vision 2030 2 years ago ended up as 3+ hours of managerial navel gazing in a bubble somewhere out there in the ether. So much so that several of you found yourselves instinctively reminding them to focus on writers. Remember the anatomy of the writer? Only Director Kim mentioned the competition, and no one brought up taxpayers. While TriMet responds well to day-to-day customer concerns, strategically, it's unbelievably out of touch. TriMet's frontline people and immediate supervisors do a great job, as good as any and better than most. But there's a big problem with the big picture stuff. Comparing the current budget to TriMet's peak year, fiscal 12, fixed route ridership is down 34%, employee headcount up 51, and top executive roster up 180. Inflation's up 42, the budget's up 109, and taxes, now supplemented with STIF funds, STIF formula funds, are up 157. Again, the percentage changes since fiscal 12, ridership down 34, inflation up 42, employees up 51, the budget up 109, taxes and STIF up 157, and top exec 180. This is good news in the short term because by cutting bloat and overspending, TriMet should balance the budget with minimal service cuts. In the long term, TriMet can expect to lose most current passengers as more and more alternatives better meet rider needs. A sustainable TriMet would have no place for expensive, underperforming rail services. If management doesn't call for shutting down West, eliminating TriMet streetcar subsidy, and a moratorium on light rail expansion, you know they're not serious about making TriMet sustainable. There's more on the rail on your handout, and thank you, and good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. Okay, thank you, Zachary. Mr. Faulkner? Okay. Okay. I think that's it for our public testimony from those that are here. We'll now move to our virtual public testimony. Are you ready? Okay. First one is Carmen De Leon.
Hi, can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Carmen De Leon, and I lived in Portland for a good 10 years. All my kids were born at OHSU. I love Portland, and it's disappointing to see what it's become, an embarrassment to this nation. But we have something worse going on in Vancouver. Like Bruce and his girls just talked about, the city of Vancouver is an absolute mess. We have a mayor who is absolutely corrupt. I was there when she suckered Miss Belcott and she asked everybody on the board of CTRAN, what are you going to vote? What are you going to vote? And when she said no, the next day, I was there when they said, oh, we're going to remove Belcott and put Will Fuentes because he's going to say yes. And of course, they rigged the vote for CTRAN for the light rail that Vancouver has voted out since 1994. So the people of Vancouver do not want light rail. And we see the $1 billion ripoff that we're going to try and get away with that Ms. Mayor was rigging to get. And by the way, all of Vancouver can't be trusted. The city council itself, Ms. Harless is being investigated. The city council, Ms. Harless, $30,000 in fraud went to her boyfriend somehow. I don't know how it goes. But anyways, yeah, the videos are there. All of it's there. You cannot trust the city of Vancouver, period. And that goes for the board members. That's why they were talking about you guys as board members is so different. And we do think there's a conflict of interest when they are in debt millions of dollars, but they wanted that $1 billion, limitless check to mix and bamboozle the people to fix their debt they created. And it's not right. Like I'm saying, we don't need TriMet. I mean, we don't need the light rail system. I've watched them make the whole IBR thing. I went to the meetings. I saw the bridge, and it's a ripoff to you Portlanders. good God, if you actually see the bridge, it's not only ugly, but it does nothing for the Coliseum exit, which is exactly where everything's going to get tied up again. So please don't waste your money. Please don't get fooled. The IBR is a total ripoff, and you won't get anything out of it except years of a headache, debt, and the same backup at the I-5 Rose Garden exit, Coliseum exit. You know where it goes down to 2 lanes each way. If you don't expand that, ain't nothing going to be fixed. So, and like I've told them, at the price of buses being $1 million and the price of train buses being $19 million, you could buy 20 more buses to accommodate whatever without the $1 billion light rail, which is a total joke. And the ridership into Vancouver is only 500 a day round trip. They're saying 900. How are you going to invest billions into 900 people when you can easily put 20 buses in for 20 million? You see what I mean? So Vancouver cannot be trusted. And if you want better transportation, oh, is my time up? Hello?
Go ahead and
Hello?
finish. Hi, this is President Lewis. Go ahead and finish up.
Okay, I was just going to say, for the price of $1 billion, you can get a jetpack for only $90,000. And if you had enough people with backbone, they can get on jetpacks, not worry about traffic, and fly around on no traffic, a jetpack, $90,000, almost the price of an expensive car. So you see what I mean? There's more ways than one to skin a cat. And this automatic taxis have been outlawed. All automatic cars have been outlawed in Arizona because of the woman who got killed. So I don't recommend automatic driving anywhere for anything. As you know, there have been Teslas that lock the people in and they burn to death. You need manual things, because when the computer fries, you could be dead. That guy in that Tesla died because it thought it was being robbed, and it shut down, it locked down, and he burned to death in that Tesla. So we can't trust, no taxis, no automatic. Look up Arizona,
Carmen?
and you'll see a woman died.
Carmen?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you,
Thank you.
Carmen.
Thank you so much. Don't trust Vancouver. Bye.
Thank you, Carmen. Our next virtual testimony is Keisha.
Good morning, TriMet board members, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. First, I would like to say that I appreciate you all who participated in the Week Without Driving. I'm with the Bus Riders Unite group with Abby Griffith and Michael Bjork that spoke before. I really appreciate you all that took the time to do that, and for those that missed out, I encourage you to do it next year. It's a wonderful time to experience what service with TriMet looks like for a majority of people who depend on it in the Portland metro area, such as myself. Secondly, I would like to say that I speak out against proposed service cuts in the coming months. The recent TriMet survey seemed to assume that cuts were inevitable, but I don't think that should be the starting point. I understand that funding is tight, but if TriMet wants to build a strong future, maintaining and growing ridership has to be the priority. That means protecting service, not reducing it. TriMet should be working with local and regional governments to secure funding needed to both stay financially stable and keep our community connected. As a blind or low vision single mother myself, I depend on TriMet services every day to get groceries, to go to doctor's appointments, to take my son to sports practice. And I'm in the Tigard area, which I have 2 relatively close bus lines that I depend on daily. And if those get cut, it's really going to limit my ability to live my life as fully as I can. I just want to say thank you again for letting me speak today.
Thank you, Keisha. Next, we have Thomas Craig. Thomas?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, TriMet Board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Thomas Craig, and I'm also a member of Bus Riders Unite. I was concerned to hear the news last week that TriMet was leaning towards reducing the planned coverage of BAT lanes on the 82nd Avenue FX project. I hope to visit the Community Advisory Committee for the project with my mom this evening. She lives off Division on 77th and supports the Bat Lanes. But my niece is having a choir concert that also starts at 6 p.m. So you get me testifying remotely this morning instead. The Bat Lanes are a tiny cost, but a valuable component of the 82nd Avenue project, which already represents a compromise between many competing interests. The BA, as you know, stands for business access, and it's important to recognize that cars will still be able to access businesses along all of 82nd. TriMet is the region's transit agency and should push for the best transit infrastructure on the project it can, not be willing to water down plans to meet the demands of a few loud voices. Non-drivers need you to protect their rights to get around the region safely. When the issue comes to you in a future meeting, please support more bat lanes along the 82nd Avenue corridor. Also, I'm grateful for those of you who participated in the Week Without Driving. Thank you for taking the time to learn what it's like to rely on the TriMet system. For those who didn't, please consider doing so next year and working to demonstrate that you understand what it's like to rely on your system. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Next, we have Kimberly Elbon.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you. My name is Kimberly Goheen Elbin, and I'm a life citizen of Clark County, Washington, USA. I'd like to thank all the speakers there, especially Mr. Fontner and Mr. Barnes. I'm not new at public speaking, but I do not have the experience on transportation as some. With that said, I've noticed that these past 4.5 years during criminal Biden's administration have excess bleeding of hard-earned tax dollars pocketed and overspent by tyrannical governments. And we all know millions and millions of hard-earned tax dollars have passed to transportation here in Clark County. I'd like to see it audited. So I'll speak to our own sanctuary government here in Clark County. There is a theft and racketeering here in our transportation. We must audit all government entities as we try to get our republic back to actually serving the people and stop those who are raking in millions and millions of hard-earned tax dollars that have actually already been spent and pocketed. The mayor of Vancouver, of whom I'm actively working to get her out of office, she is not only the mayor who has firsthand authority to pass transportation funding, but was a chair of transportation. And I find that as a conflict of interest. We're still calling for an audit for sure. She continues to spend millions of hard-earned tax dollars. And I say spend as those hard-earned tax dollars have gone to special interest groups. Millions of hard-earned tax dollars have already gone to the pockets for pushing light rail to Clark County. Clark County citizens have voted light rail down 3 times, yet she and her tyrannical crew still continue to push light rail. She and her crew are 18-year members of the United Nations of the ICLEI and do not have the will of the people as top priority. I'm going to mention also that Portland is also a member of the United Nations, not following the Constitution, and do not have the will of the people as first top priority. Continue your effective busing, but do not support light rail. We don't want it here. We must stand strong against tyrannical governance, and that we will do. We went through a very hard last 4.5 years here. The 4 years of, as I said, Biden's administration that bleeds us of our hard-earned tax dollars, and people are trying to keep food on their table, keep their children educated, try to stay healthy. And during those last 4 years, all chaos was brought out. So my rule is here: no tolls, no light rail, and God is always good. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, last we have Doug Allen. There you are. Doug, you can continue. Or,
Good morning.
go ahead,
Good
start.
morning. Good morning, President Lewis and board
Good
directors.
morning.
I'm Doug Allen. I'm the Portland area vice president of AORTA, Association of Oregon Rail and Transit Advocates. I have 4 suggestions for you today. First, buy the former Portland Greyhound Depot and help restore the area around Union Station as a regional transportation center.
That's a good idea.
Second, you need a contingency plan in case Senator Bruce Starr and Representative Ed Deal succeed in getting HB 3991 referred to the voters, thereby preventing collection of the increase to the statewide transit tax, which will occur if they refer it. I suggest you consider a local measure for the 2026 primary, effective only if HB 3991 fails at the ballot box, and one that terminates when sufficient state funding becomes available. Third, rather than holding open houses about whose service to cut in order to save which other service, begin a conversation with all residents of this region about the role that transit should serve, such as shaping urban form, supporting the economy, providing mobility, supporting statewide goals for preservation of resource land, and reducing the impact of transportation on the environment. My 4th item is also a big one. With support from business and developers, as well as the population at large, craft a sustainable finance plan for the kind of transit service that this region needs, whether from district-wide taxes or subsidies from various local governments who wish to support good service within their boundaries. TriMet should have a policy that capital project funding should not come from the current payroll tax, but instead from local, regional, and state of Oregon partners, such as the local share for the second light rail line from downtown Portland to Hillsborough, which came from voter-approved taxes. Paris, France supports its transit system with a payroll tax of 2.85%, over 3 times TriMet's current employer payroll tax. The city of Seattle has a transportation levy that supports transit within that city. Portland, Metro, and the 3 counties should do something similar. To gain voter approval of additional resources, TriMet will need a widely accepted consensus from a public conversation, and will likely need to engage in certain accountability measures, which might include delays and reductions in some expenditures, and clearer explanations and graphic materials showing where the money comes from today and where it is spent. TriMet needs a vision of an overall better system to sell to voters. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Doug. Are there any other virtual testimonies? That's it? Okay. I'd like to thank all of those who brought testimony today, either in person or virtually. The board is available to hear your comments, feedback, thoughts, criticisms, hear everything that you have to say, and we take to heart. With no other members of the public signed up, I will close the public forum at this time. Okay. Okay, we will now proceed with board reports for the business meeting. I begin with asking Director Graham to present a report from the recent meeting on the Committee of Accessible Transportation, also known as CAT.
Thank you, President Lewis, and good morning, everyone. The CAT committee met on October 17th and discussed the outreach plans for different listening sessions that will be conducted with communities to talk about proposed service reductions. And we're really encouraging people who are experiencing disability to attend those sessions and share their lived experience in working and living and using transit. The LIFT subcommittee update was provided. We talked about changes to web booking tools, FY26 priorities for LIFT, including vehicle replacements and things along those lines. There was a wayfinding subcommittee update that talked about some of the work on screen reader accessibility and some of Braille instructions on Falcon devices. We also discussed 82nd. I know that will be an ongoing conversation here and in our meeting. TriMet staff provided some updates. There will be fixed route operator trainings that will resume in January for new operators. And a new CAT ad hoc committee will be convened, regarding the growing number of wagons, bags, and other things brought on transit that is resulting in a dramatic increase in ADA pass-ups. And that's an issue that the CAT has a lot of concern around. So I know that TriMet leadership and the CAT will be working on solutions for that. There will, the TV Highway Community Advisory Committee announced that they are opening the portal for applications for people to be a part of that committee, and that portal opens on October 13th. And Eileen shared that she is also working with a number of public transportation providers and first responders to do advanced planning on emergency response to help people better evacuate vehicles when that is necessary. So gathering best practices and seeking the input of individuals with lived experience with disability to participate in this research. So Tommy Hunt is also working on this research, but feedback is invited. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Are there any questions or comments for Erin on the Committee on Accessible Transportation report? Okay. Anything from our virtual board members? Nope, okay, thank you. We'll now ask Director Flowers to present a report from the recent meeting on Metropolitan Advisory Committee impact. Director Flowers?
Hey, thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. This morning, I'd like to share a brief update on September's impact meeting. We received 2 briefings from Metro staff on the future vision, which I'll talk about in 2 seconds, and the Regional Comprehensive Climate Action Plan. We also had a presentation from Dr. Leslie King of PSU, which I'll talk about as well. The future vision, for folks' reference, is an aspirational process that Metro is leading to define the preferred vision for our region over the course of the next 50 years. They're going to be engaging thousands of people from the Portland Metro region and then asking them how the forces of housing, of transit, of climate justice, of all these forces can be leveraged together to build a city and a region that we feel proud of. Upon completion of the future vision, staff will develop an implementation plan to be adopted by Metro Council. Metro staff shared an overview of the 23-member Future Vision Commission, who were actually just appointed by Metro Council as of, I want to say, a month and a half or 2 months ago, and who just held their first meeting earlier this month. After that, the Metro staff shared a draft comprehensive climate action plan for the region, which has been available for public feedback since August. Folks can find that on Metro's website. Metro staff also solicited feedback from impact members to help finalize the plan. The plan is fully funded, the plan is funded by a grant from the U.S. EPA and will prioritize actions the region can take to meet climate-related goals. Metro Council will consider accepting the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan by resolution next month. And then lastly, Dr. Leslie King of PSU gave a presentation titled Place and Health, the health impacts of the built environment, to provide impact members with a better understanding of the public health impacts of the built environment. The core message of the presentation was really that the built environment creates systemic patterns that affect the health of our most vulnerable communities, not just here in Portland, but across the nation and across the world. So that was the gist. Impact meets again tonight, and I will be back next month with an update from that meeting.
Okay. Thank you, JT. Are there any questions or comments about the Metropolitan Advisory Committee for Director Flowers? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Now we'll ask Director Kellogg to provide a report on the recent meeting of the Accountability Committee.
Thank you, President Lewis. So the Accountability Committee met on September 24th, about a month ago. All committee members were in attendance and very active in our discussion. Part of that discussion was led by Dave Whipple, who's TriMet's manager of digital communication, regarding the number of visits to our website, especially the accountability website. For those that are interested, TriMet's website averages 4 million hits per month, which is a lot. The most visited pages in August 2025 on the accountability website were, and we can really be proud of this, the board of directors. People were interested in who we are, as well as TriMet's finances. And we do such a good job with transparency and accountability that most of our discussion was about paring back the amount of information that we have on the website and how long some of that information's been up there. Our internal policy had it at about 5 years. Some of that stuff gets stale pretty quick, so we've talked about scaling it back, and that discussion continues today, but we're looking at exploring about a 3-year period for the life of information on the website. Also, in a bit of a sad note, Dave, who's been a member of the committee for 10 years, is taking a step back, and Roberta, hi Roberta, she's going to be a new member on the committee to work on our continued efforts at accountability and transparency. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions? Thank you, Robert, for Robert this morning. Okay, checking, seeing none from our virtual directors. Thank you. Okay, we will now turn to Director Kim to provide a report from this morning's F&A committee meeting. Director Kim, he's virtual.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. The F&A Finance and Audit Committee, we got to meet this morning, talked about 3 items. One, the budget balancing scorecard. Management presented financial information for fiscal year 2026 to fiscal year 2040, outlining new revenue, service cuts, and spending reductions, and the budget scorecard will also be discussed at the board retreat. Something to look forward to. Second item was external audit update. A. Bailey presented the results of the external financial audit. So this was the second year for the annual comprehensive financial report, also known as ACFR. This ACFR is published on our accountability and transparency website, which was just discussed. A. Bailey will also provide this presentation today for the board. There were no deficiencies or instances of non-compliance to report. The last item was federal awards. We looked at how much federal spending the district has incurred over the last 10 years. On average, over the last 10 fiscal years, TriMet has received on average $148 million annually for the Federal Transit Cluster, our largest federal awards. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Are there any questions, comments for Director Kim? Okay, seeing none, thank you. At this time, before we move on, we will take a 10-minute pause and we'll come back in about 10 minutes. Thank you. At first, I'd like to make several board announcements. Okay.
Yeah, bang that there.
Okay. First, I'd like to make a few board announcements. The annual updated agency safety plan draft is now in the board portal for board members. The board will vote on it in December. It's quite lengthy, it's pretty full. Make sure you go into the portal, and the general manager wanted to allow the board plenty of time to read that. And then if you have any questions, you can get those to the designated folks who for the safety plan. The general manager's fiscal year 26 deliverables were in the packet, and we will return to those today after we go through our resolutions. So now I will turn to the general manager for his monthly report. General Manager Dessou.
Thanks, President. Good morning, President Lewis, members of the board, our community partners that are out there, and staff and the public. Before getting started, I would like to bring our Chief Safety Officer up to give us a very quick safety moment. Yeah, and I'll just project loudly for the... Thanks a lot, Andrew. So, board, I'm very grateful for everyone who came out this morning to voice their positions. Also grateful for those that came out to talk about the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. And I do think that there was a recent blog post that may have misled readers about our stance with bat lanes and where we are with the project. I've asked our 82nd Avenue team to give the board an update to really help clear the air and also to provide greater context around what we're asking the community to weigh in on. I have the update that will be in my general manager report this morning. And in the report, I'm going to update you on the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. We will review September ridership. I'm going to update you on a recently completed MAX East Side Improvements Project. You'll hear about our monthly operations analysis, as well as our monthly safety and security report. And then I'll let you know about a financial bright spot, and we'll receive our annual audit presentation from Eide Bailey. And then finally, I'll provide a brief update on our outreach around service cuts. So I want to first start off with the GM report with an update on the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. You've heard some of the voices this morning, and I would note We want that feedback because it's all part of the process as we work to build a better transit project for 82nd Avenue. So let's get you updated this morning, and let me bring up Jamie Snook, our interim Executive Director of Engineering and Construction, Michael Kaiser, he's the interim Director of Major Projects, and also Jesse Stemler, he's our interim Director of the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. So with that, I'll let him get in place, and then Jamie, go ahead and take it away when you're ready.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come here and give you a brief update on the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. So we're really glad to be here. My name is Jamie Snook. I'm the Interim Executive Director for Capital Project Delivery in the Engineering and Construction Division. And I'm here with Michael Kaiser, the Interim Executive Director, Interim Director of Major Projects, and Jesse Stemler, the Interim 82nd Avenue Project Director. We really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us, and I'm really grateful for the public comment that people took the time to come here today and provide public comment on the 82nd Avenue project. We're really excited to see the project move forward. We're excited that people are coming here, taking the time and sharing their opinions. And I love the vision that Zachary shared with us this morning, and we would love to work with our partners and the community to realize that vision and how it best fits within the community on 82nd Avenue. So that was just a little side note, a little personal introduction. So we're here today, next slide please. Because there's been a lot of interest and concern lately about the project, and so we wanted to provide you all with an update on where we're at and where we're going. So first I'm gonna start and talk about the scope recommendation for the business and access transit lanes that you may have heard from both from the community today and from others over the past week or so. TriMet has led a conversation to develop a framework on defining how BAT lanes could and would be implemented on 82nd Avenue. While we thought this would be a helpful tool for evaluating to put forward a recommendation, we realized that it may have inadvertently suggested that we had come to a formal decision. And we want to make sure that our stakeholders, that the public, our partners realize that that's not the case, that we're here to provide a recommendation to generate conversation and to get feedback. And so we wanted to make sure that that's very clear. Learning from this, we believe that it's a better approach to take a more holistic look at conversations about BAT lanes, what are the transit benefits, the traffic impacts, the community feedback and input along the corridor, technical analysis, roadway ownership conversations, really looking at this holistically to get a big picture of what the recommendations should be moving forward into 60%. I say moving forward into 60% because we have just finished our 30% design, and from concept design to 30%, we were really looking at various alternatives along the corridor around BAT lanes. We will be taking this information to our Citizen Advisory Committee this evening, and going to our Policy and Budget Committee on November 7th. And really the recommendation that we're bringing forward was really just to generate conversation and have that holistic, comprehensive discussion around how we want to move forward. Next slide. So I wanted to show you just a little bit about the timeline and where we're at, and I also wanted to highlight the LPA adoption, the locally preferred alternative, that really just happened earlier this spring. And that's the real big milestone where all the partners have been doing lots of planning work, lots of concept design. They've come together and they said, we want to move this project forward. And it was a formal approval, adoption, endorsement phase saying, yes, we're all in, we're moving forward. Let's keep driving this bus down 82nd Avenue. I wanted just to highlight that was kind of the jumping off point to where we are today. And so where we are today, I think I just mentioned that we just wrapped up 30% design. And this is, normally part of the process where we have ideas and recommendations of things that go through 30% design, and we look at them and we evaluate them and we test them out in the design phase, and we get community input, we get input from our partners. And that's really what we're trying to do, is that we've developed these alternatives through the 30% design, and now we want to hear about where people want to see us move forward. Next slide, please. So this is just a locally preferred alternative overview of the LPA. The LPA really looked at defining what is the alignment. It's on 82nd Avenue. Where's the terminus? The two terminus are Clackamas Town Center and the Cully neighborhood. The mode is bus rapid transit, so implementing RFX on 82nd Avenue. That's our version of bus rapid transit. And really a high-level funding plan. Next slide. What we were developing through concept design and 30% was what we call the Core Transit Project. And I really want to emphasize that the Core Transit Project does a lot for transit. It's a really great project, especially when you consider it to existing conditions. But we know that we want to do more. And so the whole idea through the BAT lane conversations was how do we invest more in transit priority above and beyond what we're already planning on doing. The 82nd Avenue project will bring a modern bus service on 82nd Avenue in the form of the FX bus service. We will be looking at transit signal priority treatments along the corridor, so really making sure that traffic and the buses are flowing along 82nd and getting priority through those intersections. We are looking at zero-emission buses with all-door boarding and near-level boarding. We'll be looking at enhanced stations strategically placed all along the corridor that maximizes ridership and supports the transit riders along the corridor. Those stations will include shelters and lighting and real-time information. If you notice what's on Division, it's a lot of what's on Division will now be on 82nd Avenue. And it really improved both the comfort, the ease, the safety, the reliability of this transit service on 82nd Avenue. Next slide. So as part of the overall project, we had developed a project policy and management structure. So we work really closely with our partners at the project partners group, the PPG, and that's the staff level project managers who are working on the project from all across the agencies, including our consultants and the TriMet team. And then we have the project management group, and that group is made up of senior leadership across each of the partner organizations to help guide and develop the project as we move forward. Then we have the policy and budget committee, which is the executive staff or executive leadership from each of the agencies. So for example, our general manager sits on the policy and budget committee, along with other elected officials from Clackamas County and City of Portland, and then we have executive staff from Oregon Department of Transportation and a member from our CAC, our Citizen Advisory Committee, sit on that. And the idea is that at the project partners group that they really develop the project and make as many decisions they can at that level, and those decisions that can't be made at the staff level get moved up to the project management group, the senior leadership, and the decisions that can't be made there move up to the policy and budget committee. We really wanted to structure this in a way that all levels of our partner agencies were providing input and feedback into the project. Next slide. So bringing it back to the BAT lane conversation, which is the conversation at hand, people are very interested in the amount of BAT lanes, and we're really grateful that people are taking such interest because I know that we're very interested in doing the most that we can for the project. The BAT lanes are an important tool that builds upon the core transit project and really provides that future reliability that's important to future transit operations along the corridor. When we're looking at BAT lanes, we'll really be looking at what the impacts to traffic, diversion into the neighborhood streets, does it fit within the overall project budget, how much additional cost would be needed to do additional things, and really looking at the community and the business feedback from our residents, the community along the corridors, the local businesses, and our transit riders. Next slide. So what we're seeing here on this slide is really showing the three different scenarios that we were moving forward with. There's no BAT lanes, which is that core project that I showed you earlier that has all of the great things that enhance the corridor, make transit safer, faster, and more reliable. And then we added in what we call the some BAT lanes, and that's really putting in BAT lanes in strategic locations to help move transit faster and provide that sense of provide that reliability along the corridor. And then the more bat is looking at how we can emphasize more bat lanes across the entire corridor. And all of these different scenarios have pros and cons, but they're all building off of the no bat lanes, the core transit project scenario. So I just wanted to highlight the things that we were looking at. So as you can see on the slide, each one of them builds and makes the project a little bit better, but they also have some drawbacks as well as far as traffic impacts and potential for diversion. Next slide. So what you saw, the previous slide that you just saw was really kind of the starting point for our recommendation and where we want to generate more conversation with our partners about the trade-offs between each of those different scenarios. And that was the recommendation that we had put forward, was saying, here's where we landed on the analysis, but we want to hear back from the community, hear back from our partners. And really this is the normal part of the process where we have a bunch of things that we're looking at and we need to pick where we want to, the direction that we want to go in. And so we're at that point in time where we're really generating that feedback that we want from the community and our partners. So that's where we're at today. And like I mentioned earlier, we're going to our CAC this evening to get their input, and then we will be going to our policy and budget on November 7th to get their feedback. And we'll continue to work through the process to engage with businesses along the corridor, with neighborhood associations along the corridor, with our CAC, with our partners, to come to a resolution on the right path forward. I think that's it. So we're here to answer any questions. My team is here to answer any questions. I can help.
Do you want me to go ahead and take questions? Okay. Questions from the board. I'll start with Director Graham.
Thank you so much for the presentation and the clarification. Given the interest in this, I am curious as to how the process is being communicated to the public. I know that we put the recommendations online. I think that had generated a significant response from the community that's being sent to the board. And I don't know that the process was very clear or transparent to people. So I'm wondering what the approach is to make sure that people understand the decision-making process, because it is very robust. There's a lot of people involved and a lot of groups that are not solely TriMet. And I think it is important for people to understand how they can interface with that process, obviously through us, but through and directly to the group of decision makers.
Thank you for the question. I can start and ask my colleagues to chime in. So the Community Advisory Committee has been really that major touch point for the project, and as we are moving through the different stages of the project, they have been there with us regularly, updating them and providing status. And then as Jamie had mentioned, there is a strong nexus between the staff work we're doing, the Community Advisory Committee updates that we provide, and then ultimately the policy and budget. And we do provide those materials online. I think there is opportunity absolutely to improve upon that. And I think the developments over the last week, I think we are looking actively on how do we improve upon that process and learn from where we've been. And we will be actively working within our agency and with partners to make sure that we can be very clear about that process going forward.
I'd just like to add that exactly what Jesse said. That's exactly right, that we'll be working on that in the coming months, coming days. We did set out how the different committees were going to operate and the roles and responsibilities as far as the project partner group and the PMG and the policy and budget at the LPA adoption process. But we realize as we're moving forward that we need to be more clear about roles and responsibilities moving forward.
Okay. Before I call Robert, just a question. On your site, it might be helpful to list those committees and that breakdown. It is not on the site. The slide that you just shared, the PG, and they're not listed there at all. Okay. Director Kellogg?
Thank you. Two questions. First one's a little bit blunt. I'm not looking to assign blame, but when 50 emails show up in my inbox on Monday morning, I know something has happened that was unexpected and caught the public by surprise. So without assigning blame, what happened?
We were also caught by surprise. We have, as Jesse had mentioned, regular touch points at all levels, including with the community. So there's been extensive outreach, extensive meetings with CAC and our partners, and we all also rely on our partner groups to communicate that information up through their organizations. So some of this, I believe, was spurred by an article by Portland, which I think, because all the information wasn't out there in terms of briefings and so forth, I think it created confusion, and immediately people went into action across the board, thinking that, hey, this decision had been made because the project team had put out a recommendation, and that simply wasn't true. But as you know, once that ball starts rolling, we don't have any control over it. So immediately, really ever since Friday, we've been responding to much of that fallout. And we have a CAC meeting tonight to also kind of set things back on track as far as process that we've clearly communicated, but we'll reiterate that. And we are switching paths. I mean, I think we put out a recommendation to say this is how we think we could approach bat lanes in the context of the project, where we have a clear schedule, we have a budget, we have a federal funder, and we need to be ready. But clearly there wants to be, I think it's more valuable to have a bigger conversation where policy and budget can weigh in and maybe even be the decision maker on the extent of the bat lanes that we choose to move forward with. And that will likely require support outside of the project, financially, in terms of policy, politics, et cetera. So that's where it starts to go beyond what we have control of within the project. And I think it's going to be a great conversation where we all need to lean in to say, what do we want and how are we going to get there together?
Right, and I just want to highlight some of the last part of what you said, because now that this is out in the ether and people are obviously interested and they're going to follow this, they're going to want to know ultimately who's going to make this decision and how do I get my voice to those people. So let's keep that in mind as we continue throughout this process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to add to, and I'll look for other board members, just to add to what you just stated, just clarity. You said the project team issued a memo. And I think I have a copy of that memo. And so the clarity that would be helpful is you stated that you're at 30%, but your memo states clearly 60%. And I think that is part of clarity for the community to be very transparent. I think I can top 50 letters and plus, and was up to close to midnight answering each and every one. That, for me, is not a sign that there was communication, clearly, of the process. So we're going to look to the general manager to revisit the process that's being used on this. And I guess one added piece is the logo that's being used. It's really not clear if it's TriMet or not, so I did go to our website. And there was no signature on that memo. That went worldwide. That's not good. Okay. I understand what it is, but today we heard 30%.
Well, we finished 30%. We're in this in-between point between 30 and 60. So the recommendation was really focused on outlining a potential option as a starting point for what we bring into the 60% design.
Right,
So,
but it doesn't say that. Okay.
and
Go ahead. Any other board members online? Oh, okay, Director Flowers, yes. I was looking for a hand up or, yeah.
Yeah, just a couple points really quickly. One is more of a comment, the other is more of a question and perhaps a nudge or suggestion. So, first, I think we get ourselves into trouble when we try to be something that we're not. We are a transit agency at our core. Our core function is to advance the cause of public transit and make sure that people have safe, reliable, and accessible ways to get to and from anywhere they care to get to and from. We also have a responsibility to think about transit in a broader environmental and human context as a tool of development and as a transformer of cities. With an understanding of that core function comes, I think, a necessary understanding of the types of positions that we need to be more comfortable asserting on issues like this. I think that it is without a doubt that the vast majority of folks who inhabit my district, who inhabit Director Frisbee's district, have been very clear in asserting that they would like to see 82nd Avenue, which I remind folks used to be a highway and still effectively functions as a highway, transforming that corridor into a neighborhood corridor again. This project is core to that. These bat lanes are core to that. And we as an agency, I'd like to see us get more comfortable standing in that rather than constantly trying to equivocate and balance things out. We have other agency partners and public partners who have a responsibility to do some of that balancing work for us. That's why we work in coalitions. The second piece here is there's still not, to Director Kellogg's point, any type of degree of clarity on where this final decision lies. You say it may be situated with the Policy and Budget Committee, but can we just for the record here, clearly assert where that decision is going to be coming from so that not just the people in this room, but the public more broadly have a sense of what they can expect, when they can expect it, and if they do have a perspective to share, where they can go to most effectively assert that perspective.
I mean, if we're saying today, because this is an issue that really exceeds the capability of the project team, both in terms of budget, policy, and politics, and some of the, I guess, authority, it would rise to the policy and budget, and those individuals, there's 6 beyond TriMet, to make that decision. So that is showing up at those public meetings is one way, but this is not just a single factor, right? We have to consider. TriMet has been successful in delivering major projects because we also have to focus on scope, schedule, budget, and where we are with the federal government who's funding half of this. So we have to balance that side of this effort as well. And then those are all challenging things to balance, right? So the decision will be made, I think, at that level, and we look for that discussion to really start on November 7th. It may not be finalized there, but.
Director Flowers, let me jump in, and Director Kellogg, there are 3 different committees in the framework of this project. There's a technical group that's called the Project Partners Group, and that group is made of project staff leads within the 5 organizations that's financially supporting this project. The next group up is called the Project Management Group, and this group addressed policy and advised TriMet on direction of the policy of the project. And this group here are more senior level project managers from around those 5 organizations. When they get into conflict at that moment, which we are with the bat lanes, it now escalates to the Policy Budget Committee, which the meeting will be on November 7th. And we should advise everyone that want to testify to come to that meeting, 9 a.m. at the Public Safety Office, to be able to bring their voice and position there. At that meeting, I chair that meeting with members from Clackamas County, elected official, City of Portland, the Director of PBOT, Metro, which has 2 elected leaders, counselors on the committee, also Oregon Department of Transportation that will be there. We will take all of that information, the analysis from the team, the recommendations from the team, and we will make that decision or provide guidance back down to the project management group on where we should go. So we'll start that process on the 7th. It may not end on the 7th, but all of the organizations will receive that information and we'll come to provide guidance back to the project management group and to the technical group on the direction.
And then, thank you for that, General Manager Sue. Just one more quick question on that front. Will we as an agency have an opportunity to assert a perspective in the context of that decision-making conversation?
So we signed off on the local preferred alternative back in March, given a responsibility to all of the organizations. So no. But I am here to hear from you to take that perspective back to the committee.
Thank you. And I think the second part of that response is what I'm trying to drill down on here. You know, we have hundreds of thousands of people who rely on our system on a day-to-day basis, who believe in the future of this region, who believe in transit as a key catalyst in delivering that future. And I think very frequently, we miss opportunities to show up locked arm in arm with those folks. And this feels like such a no-brainer from the perspective of a transit authority. I'd love to see us step into that space and be willing to say, here's the scenario we'd like to see materialized. Let's play to win rather than playing not to lose. And I think playing to win here means going for a full bat scenario rather than the reduced scenario that was proposed in that memo that got leaked. So just wanted to state that for the record, but appreciate you folks taking the time to answer my questions.
And I appreciate that as well. I just want to let you know, I think there's been differing opinions within the group. One is, you're right, you know, looking at the budget itself has been one. The second one is the analysis work on making sure that you got an FX system out there that is fast and frequent, you know, on that corridor, like you talked about having a neighborhood. So I'll definitely be able to meet. I'm hopeful to get a phone call in before my November 7th meeting with each board member, even just reaching out and giving you a call and getting your insight.
Absolutely. I'm here for it on this end.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and thank you for coming forward. Did you have anything else?
No, I just want to say, want to tell a team, I know that, you know, thank you for what you do. And please know, board, that our outreach continues. We want to get feedback from the community to really help influence the overall design of the project. We want the very best system that's out on 82nd Avenue. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Lots should have been learned from Division Street. And so this is our second time around. Lessons learned and moving forward. Mr. Rep.
Thanks. Just real quick, and just as a public service announcement, can you let people know where to go, where to find information? Are there links on our website?
Yes.
Can I just?
Yes. The meeting is November 7th at 9 a.m. Our public safety office here in downtown, and we will be there to take public testimony. We'll get some communication out on our website as well to the public. Okay, turning to ridership. For September, TriMet provided 5.5 million rides. That's a 2.7% increase in total weekly ridership over September of last year. September report includes several bright spots. Our weekly ridership on bus was up nearly 8% year over year. Our weekly bus ridership, our weekend bus ridership was up more than 14%, pushing our weekend bus ridership for September to just shy of pre-pandemic levels. And I think that's amazing to hear that, but just down 4%. Wes also had a good month, posting an 11% increase in September for ridership. And also, I want to mention ridership last Saturday. I was talking to Director Graham here about this just a few minutes ago. We had the No Keens event, brought an estimated 40,000 people to downtown Portland. Many of them going by TriMet. Our trains were packed all afternoon. We checked the data. Our ridership spiked 24,000 trips compared to a typical Saturday in September. Bus ridership was also up by tens of thousands of rides. While the marches in downtown were peaceful, and the inner east side did lead some disruption to Max and detours to some of our bus lines, but our team was out in force, really keeping people safe, keeping them moving as much as possible. Our law enforcement, our security teams, our partners, we really appreciated that large gathering that was peaceful that day. And they have also been well received by many of the small businesses also that really got a boost that was there with so many people downtown, and we really appreciate the increase in ridership. I have the team going back and looking currently now to find out what's our largest ridership day. So hopefully next month I'll be able to tell the board at the retreat session what that is there. So now for an update on the East Side Max improvements work. Work was disrupted on our red line for 6 days between Gateway and Portland International Airport. The shutdown gave our crews time to do necessary state of good repair work on the red line, and that included replacing the rail along one of our tightest curves in the entire system, and that curve is called the fish hook. You can't miss it when you ride it to the airport. It looks like a fish hook. Crews replaced 100 feet of curved rail there and more rail near the Cascade Station. They also deep cleaned our closed stations, cleaned the ballast, replaced ties, and all of this came after a day-long disruption on the Max Blue Line, the green and the red, for the safe removal of scaffolding at Northeast 82nd Max Station. That renovation project there is on track to wrap up by the end of the year. And I just want to say kudos to our team out here. Job well done. And really, thanks to our riders. Thanks for rolling with us through the disruptions that we've been through, as well as completing these improvements. And then on the last note, as part of our TriMet 2030 plan, one of the overarching goals is to improve the customer experience. We have been gathering feedback from riders on how they can experience the disruption so that we can learn and make improvements to help future plan disruptions and go that, for those disruptions to really go even more smoothly. Now I'd like to turn to our monthly operations analysis report. So I want to bring up Les Spittler, our Director of Transit System Support Service, and Senior Analyst for Operations Planning, Catherine Keeling. So Les, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good morning, President Lewis, members of the board. Catherine and I are here this morning to present the monthly operations analysis for September 2025. Just a brief reminder that we did reduce the lag from 2 months to 1, and we made some formatting changes to make the information more viewer-friendly, and we debuted that last month. Director Kellogg, I know you asked some questions last month about max ridership. Catherine will be addressing those in a minute, along with some other topics that she had a chance to dive into and research and analyze. So, as you heard from General Manager Dessou, fixed route system-wide weekly ridership is up 2.7% for September. When we add Lyft ridership into the mix, the system-wide weekly average is up 2.9% from last September. And the monthly ridership totals are up 4.6% over last year with Lyft included. While bus, ATP, and West ridership all increased in September year over year, max ridership is down for a second month in a row. There was one max service disruption during September 2025 in the Robertson Tunnel. That was a one-week closure on the west side, blue and red lines. That gave our maintenance crews the opportunity to execute critical work to replace and repair the assets within the tunnel to make sure that we have more reliable service.
And here's where I'd like to follow up on Director Kellogg's inquiry from last board meeting. You asked if the max ridership trends were continuing into September, which they did. We do note when the ridership is impacted by a service disruption, as was the case in September, but not August. What we have noticed in our review of national transit data is that transit agencies are coming to the end of their post-pandemic recovery trajectories, especially light rail systems. And as for situations in and out of our control, we know that the hub of our max ridership or max network is downtown Portland. And therefore, the max ridership is going to reflect the softening office space market. We are very proud of all the cultural activities, many of them TriMet sponsored, that have buoyed the liveliness of downtown Portland, but it is hard to overcome the vacancy office rates that are still continuing to soften. Kellogg expressed interest in further insights from HOP data. Our colleagues in FAIR programs have shared that there were 55,000 employee passes in circulation last year compared to 52,000 in circulation this year. However, amongst those active employee HOP passes, they are using their passes more frequently, such that the employer pass revenue actually is set to exceed what it was last year. So great work is continuing there. As for the interest in youth passes, I'm pleased to report that for August-September 24 compared to August-September 25, there was actually an 11% increase in youth taps on the MAX system while bus was stable. So good news for the future and our future. And as far as other levers within TriMet's control, I will defer to Andrew Wilson's report on ongoing mitigation of safety security concerns on our MAX system. And taken all together, the dip in max ridership has not gone unnoticed amongst Trimatians, and we know that it will be harder to achieve year-over-year growth going forward than it has been in the past 5 years. But with system-wide ridership being in the black, it does reflect that the service improvements that TriMet has implemented in 2025 have been on the bus side, whereas our rail system is continuing to prioritize maintenance investments necessary to continue reliable and safe operations, even when that requires service disruptions. I hope this satisfies your interest.
Thanks, Catherine. All right, moving on to the bus side. As Catherine mentioned, we had some service improvements at the onset of the spring 2025 sign-up. And it's great to see that after about 6 months of those increased service to major employment destinations, that the rides per revenue hour, which is the top left graph here, is looking great and far exceeded last year's metric. I also want to call attention to the mean distance between failure metric. That's the bottom left graph here. We're seeing a really positive trend there, and I think in the last spring I had mentioned that our bus maintenance department is doing engine overhauls on some of our older fleets. Those were some of the most failures that were affecting that MDBF metric, and it looks like that's been paying off, and they've been keeping those fleets operational and in a state of good repair, so that's a great job there.
complement my earlier remarks about max ridership, we can review the max complaints per 100,000 boardings. The metric looks like fairly flat, with 6 of the 9 reporting months in 2025 being lower than their 24 counterparts. The raw complaint counts are also flat when drilling down to service delivery subtotals, which is where complaints about service disruptions would be categorized. So this stability is a testament to the incredible customer service that our ride guides and volunteering employees offer during a service disruption, or else we would be seeing more concerning trends here.
Okay, accessible transportation. I had mentioned last spring the efforts from Eileen and her team to improve the productivity of Lyft service to get more rides per revenue hour. You can see on the top left here that they continue to do an excellent job getting more folks on those vehicles and increasing the productivity of that service. Also want to highlight the mean distance between failure, again, lower left. We had changed the methodology last September, and you can see that their MDBF currently compared to last year is 30,000 miles above what last year's metric was. That's really impressive and shows the diligence that that team is doing, working with their contractor Penske to keep those vehicles in a state of good repair.
And lastly, for Wes, things are looking good and stable as usual. It's always great to see a complete lack of preventable collisions for years 2024 and 25 to date. And lastly, the last page of our report is a one-stop shop for all of the key performance metrics rolling 12 months from October 24 through September 25. Thank you for your time this morning. This concludes our overview.
Any questions from the board virtually? Nope, seeing none. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much. Next this morning, our Chief Safety and Security Officer, Andrew Wilson. He's here to present the monthly safety and security report.
Thanks, Sam. Good morning, Board President Lewis and TriMet Board of Directors. Great to be here with you this morning. One quick plug, which has already been mentioned, the agency safety plan, our annual exercise with the FTA and our state safety oversight agency is in your board portal, and we'd like you to take a look at that and have plenty of time for questions between now and when we present this back to you in December for approval for that document. Lots of good information in there about things like MDBF and other kind of things that the FTA does monitor in terms of our performance indicators, state of good repair efforts, et cetera. So it's good document, and I will say we did present a kind of one-pager in terms of the key things you should focus on from last year if you went through the tedious exercise of reading every page last year, so you can kind of be honed in on where you need to focus this year for your review. So thanks for that. I appreciate that. So as we get into it this morning, I just do want to bring up that fare enforcement and put that kind of in front of you. We do survey work to evaluate the effects that our fare enforcement and education efforts are having out on the system. And that survey work is national work done by, we work with a group called TransPro. They're industry kind of experts, so that we can all kind of baseline with other area transit providers as well, now particularly those on the West Coast where we kind of focus on, and those using light rail, et cetera. So if we go to the next slide, our TransPro results for this survey work indicated a 10% decline in fare evasion on the MAX train from 24 to 25. We're going to be doing this same survey again in the spring of next year. But I want to kind of call out that that is actually a very good effort and a very good focus by our teams to put into this in context. In 2019, our fare evasion rate done with the exact same survey was 19%. So we're actually exceeding where we were pre-pandemic in terms of fare evasion on the MAX train per this survey. And I could talk you through the kind of analytical way that they do this. They actually have metrics for people that walk off when they start the survey, and so it's a very kind of industry standard survey. Now, having said that, 17% is not the goal. We don't want any fare evasion, so we're continuing to work on that. But I think what this does illustrate is the focus of our teams, the buildup of these teams, recall, we've been building those numbers since 21 as well. We did this survey in March of 24. In times of 23, 22, 21, I think those numbers could have been even higher. I'm just telling you that. And so it's good that we're now back in a more healthy cycle of doing this survey work and doing the fair enforcement work out on the system, which is a key lever that we do have within our control to build ridership. And so I just wanted to make sure that you are seeing those efforts in the background and that we're intently focused on that. I'll also say that in 2019, as some of you may recall, we had a lot of folks very concerned about the way we did fare evasion, to include why law enforcement left this space altogether. Lately, we have received nothing but very positive comments in terms of how our teams are doing this work on the system. And so I think that's a success story as well, as we build these teams back up in a equitable and fair way as they do this important work, which I think the community needs. So I hope to give you another update next year on this as we do this again in the spring. If we go to the next slide, we don't have real good baselines on this bus fare evasion rate, but that'll kind of just tell you generally where we're at TriMet. I will tell you that the preceding slide and this slide illustrate a very good, when stacked up against our peers who have much higher rates on the West Coast. There are some that have lower, but there are peers that are very large on the West Coast that have much higher on both the light rail configurations that they run as well as the bus configurations. And so this is a key area of focus for us, but I do think that our teams that we've created really since post-COVID are doing this work, and they're getting kind of industry leading kind of results out of a newer and fairer system for fare evasion. So that's your update there. I'm going to give you the, if we go to the next slide, the normal kind of fare enforcement activity. This is the information we put in front of you every month. So again, there's two slides. Fare enforcement activity, this is total amount of activity. The next one talks about the actual number of citations. You'll see a dip there. You're going to see the same dip on the next slide, which is kind of slowly crept back up in September. We attribute that mostly to the fact that we had lost 5 of our customer safety supervisors who performed this work to either retirements. We had a couple of those, and we also had some promotional activity. But those folks are now back in the seats, and we're getting those numbers back up. And so if we go to the next slide, you'll also see that same kind of trend line with the number of citations, which illustrates that the work is still out there. When you do that activity, you will see a rise in the amount of citations, which I think does illustrate that we do have fare evasion going on actively, and why the importance of this work is so key to TriMet. So if we go to the next slide, these next 2 slides you're going to hear about bus, and you're going to hear about rail. I put these in front of you every month. You see this. Part of the reason I do this is to illustrate where we were versus where we are. And I think that is something that when I do a lot of talking out with area groups and different about security and emphasis here at TriMet. One of the things that I bring up, and I've brought this up, and I hope that you will bring up too, is when folks ask about concerns about security, which are completely valid, is do ask them when the last time they rode, because that is a key indicator we see from some of our survey work as well. Those that ride have a much better impression of those that don't ride. And if you had stopped riding the MAX or the bus lines in 21 or 22, even 2020, your experience would be much, much different than it would be today. So encourage folks to try us again, use the rider tools. We really want that support to get folks back out there seeing what's actually there now versus the impression that's either formed by years ago experience or the media that highlights some things as well. And so appreciate your support in that. If we go to the next slide as well, you again see that trend line. We had a lot of struggles in 21, 22, 23 that we really had to battle through. I'm incredibly proud of this team, the support that I got from Sam during that process to get to these more baseline numbers. We still have work to do. Every single day there's work to do. But I just want you to know that these teams have worked incredibly hard to get to some of these goals. If we go to the next slide. This is safety response team activity. Currently, the safety response team is at the highest numbers it's ever had in terms of the numbers that are out there. 96 today that are out there in uniform for the safety response team. You're seeing the level of activity that they can do with those numbers. This team gets celebrated across the city and metro area. I've had conversations with the mayor's office and the mayor himself about this team and their activity and how we can partner together. So this is a very good performing team and fulfilling a need here at TriMet and in our region. And if we go to the next slide, just to remind you, these are the top types of education or top types of responses that they're doing out there right now. One of them is education, wayfinding, welfare checks, assists, et cetera. But this is all good customer service work, but it's also good dealing with some of the most vulnerable in our population who are struggling with those kind of three indicators that have been a real challenge for TriMet and the community, whether it's houselessness, mental health, or drug addiction. And so we really are proud of this team, the work that they do in our community. And if we go to the next slide, I kind of want to give you a partner update. You have approved a broader relationship with the district attorney's office. We're already seeing some better efforts in that regard. For those that do unfortunately use our system and commit crimes, you can see the prosecution rates have come up pretty drastically, which is a great thing and an effort to all of the other surveillance work and other security operations center work and eyes on the system all feed into this, what we've built over at the Public Safety Office. And so we're proud of this partnership. I'll really draw your attention to the misdemeanor prosecution rate. You'll remember that a couple years ago we added a misdemeanor DA. His name's Brian Hogan. He does fantastic work alongside our fabulous Julian Samuels, who we've been in a great partnership for years. I've told Nathan Vasquez, please do not take either one of these folks from me. So that's on record. But really good partnerships there, and I think that's also feeding into a better and safer experience on the system as we prosecute those who offend very effectively. These rates are about the best in terms of our area. If you think about 97% from a felony prosecution rate, that's a pretty good rate. 90% for misdemeanor. There's a lot of crime in our area focused on property, and so we're actually at the table making sure that those folks are being held accountable and helping not only TriMet but our community. And lastly, I'll just leave you with, we have been talking with Chief Burke out in Lake Oswego for about a couple years at our partner luncheons. I'm happy to say that we actually have an additional officer from the Lake Oswego Police Department for the first time in over 5 years. He'll be starting on November 3rd. I've met him, the lieutenant, but we have started that partnership as well. They've given us another officer, so that brings us up to 32 total folks in the Transit Police Department. So again, building those partnerships back, and we have more conversations going on with area partners and how we police this large 533 square mile operating area. And that's all.
Questions? I do have one, and then Director Graham, and then Director Kellogg. My question, can you remind us again which of your teams or groups that issue citations?
Yeah, the customer safety supervisors, they do that work alongside our customer safety officers, which are unarmed security contractors who basically protect them while they do fair work on the system. And I say that because that group, 47 in total that are actually working in that group currently. You can also look at trimet.org/personnel. This is really for everybody. I know you know about it, Dr. Lewis, but and get some really great video content that Public Affairs has put together, actually interviewing these folks, explaining their roles, how they impact. And so if you're out there doing education in your own districts and you want to reference trimet.org/personnel, it's a great way for folks to learn about our teams and what they do.
Okay, so it's just 47
That's right.
of the supervisors. They're the only ones issuing citations.
That's correct at this time, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Director Graham?
Thank you so much for the updates. You know, what really struck me in your comments is the different perception about people who are current writers versus people who are previous writers, and we hear that a lot. And then I was also thinking about the testimony at the previous board meeting related to some concerns raised about our partnerships with law enforcement.
Yep.
I'm wondering if there is a strategy for communicating to the public the impact of these partnerships and the increased safety over time. I'm not exactly sure the best way to do that, but I think if there could be some more storytelling around impact that's easier to digest than some of these very dense reports that we receive as a board, that could be very helpful for the public to understand what's working.
Yeah, I think that's a great comment, Director Graham. And Sam and Dr. Lewis and I have been talking about some different opportunities to get out and do some more education about these teams and those partnerships and the long-term effect on transit experiences. There are folks that do not feel safe around law enforcement, and that's a reality in our region. It's partly why we built the teams that we do have. But at the same time, I would like to speak with them about the new partnerships that we have with our law enforcement partners, how they're well-trained with the MCSO, the good work that they do, and how they are there to make them feel safe. And so I'd like to be a part of that, and we will be a part of that conversation. Yeah.
Thank you. Director Kellogg?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Specifically on that survey that you mentioned. I don't know if we want to go back to it in the slideshow.
Yeah.
But I was wondering first, you said it was done sort of nationally. So are there actually people on the ground here collecting data, and what sort of sample size are they taking, and what's the margin of error?
Yeah, I thought you might want to dig into that survey a little bit. I don't have all the information today. JC runs that, and his team run that survey for me, but we pay for it, but we're involved. At a very high level, this involves people that travel nationally and do this work at different configurations, but all public transit carriers across the nation. They show up on the, let's say, a MAX train, basically announce to the entire MAX train, guess what, you're all riding free today. We just want to take a survey from you about whether or not you paid fare today. Mm-hmm. A certain amount of people, when anybody gets on and makes an announcement on a train, might just walk off the train. Mm-hmm. They have a calculation for who they assume paid or didn't pay in terms of, if this was their stop, it could have been, they might have had fare, they just don't want to interact with somebody. But they make a kind of a calculation based on those folks, and then everybody else, from the front of the train to the back of the train, gets just asked this survey question if you paid fare or not. And there's a drop-down list of why they didn't pay fare if they answer that. Mm-hmm. And that data is pretty interesting as well. So we do different types of survey work. This one is more focused just on fare. But you do hear some good comments. I will say also, just like our teams, we always are providing education on reduced fare options for folks in our community that have those. And so it's a very healthy process, but that's basically how it works.
Okay.
And the margin of error is 4%, and I'm getting the sample size.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Second question, in terms of that survey vis-a-vis our own internal data. I mean, it's my understanding that we track all this ridership, so every person who steps on a MAX train, there's a click, whether it's a floor sensor or however that works. How does that compare versus the number of tickets purchased, hop passes touched, and I'd like to know, what that number reflects for fare evasion versus what this survey is telling us.
I don't think we've really synced those two metrics up in relation to this latest survey. That's a good thought, and I don't think we have. But we could do that, and I think that actually could illustrate some really good things. Overall, MAX ridership has kind of steadily increased. You've seen that very slowly, and we're worrying about the downtown occupancy rate. Obviously, the activity on the street is different than it was, and what draws you to Portland is different than it was. And so we're facing those headwinds alongside everybody else. But we can try to sink in some of that data from the HOP card usage, and I think we should. So.
Just a quick note, the sample size was 3,456. 2,862 had valid fares, 594 had invalid fares.
And that's a 1 month period of time?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And where this is coming from, and we've had this conversation a lot, is that, anecdotally, if you talk to people outside of the TriMet universe and say only 1 in 5 person is evading fare, they would laugh in your face and say, when I ride the train, nobody pays the fare. Or when I get on the bus, I think Gertrude, who was up here this morning, was saying, people are just walking right on and nobody's doing anything about it.
Yeah.
And, she made a good point, and again, we've talked about this a ton, that the safer people feel, the more likely they're going to come back. And it's unfortunate that we've got a number of riders out there, or former riders, as to Director Graham's point, that aren't coming back because of either what their experience was 3 years ago or what they read on social media. And JC, thanks for sending me again that survey. And it's the disparity between the people who ride the system and what they report versus people who don't, what they report. It's night and day.
Yeah.
right? And so I don't know how we get those former riders back to experience it today and see all the improvements we've made,
Yeah.
other than just simply standing up here and shouting about it.
Well, it's so interesting when we take people out on the system, the feedback that we get now. JC and I just were with Representative Maxine Dexter, and we went on a tour with her. She gave very favorable feedback, actually put it on Instagram, I think, and a few others, about what we've done. You know, she herself hadn't ridden in a while, so it's just really interesting kind of, and she's a great partner in that process of evaluating kind of where we're at and thinking about federal dollars and that sort of thing. And so what I'm getting at is I love the opportunity to get people that haven't been on and showcase a lot of the things that we have built, the innovations that we've created. It's very difficult to get that out very effectively unless you're in person or you're talking about it. We do try some really good social media, but I think this is an area that we need to really lean into because, again, I have neighbors. I live in Gresham. You know, people tell me things about the train and the bus all the time. I've known them for 20, 30 years. I used to ride this system myself 20 years ago, every single day into the coin building, and so I know you know, those concerns, and I understand them, is I guess what I'm saying. But there is another side to this that we are very different than we were 3 or 4 years ago. And so incremental change is what we've done, but over time, with the focus that Sam and you know, our executive team have had on safety and security, it has gotten us to a different place. And so we got to get that message out there.
I would note, we are doing an onboard survey here. It launched yesterday, and we're asking a number of safety and security questions, trying to dig in to exactly what you have been asking. So we will hopefully have some more information here probably in a couple of months as we get the information in, delve into it, and dig in and analyze it. So that's one. Two, as part of our customer journey mapping, we're actually undertaking, we have a contractor on board, and as part of TriMet 2030, to improve the customer experience, we are actually doing more research around what the customer experiences. So we have our commuters, we have some people who go to ball games, but we're actually really looking at some of our non-riders and really going after them to understand what is it, what would it take to get you on board? So with more research, we will know more and we can actually act upon that. And I would go to one last notion around the storytelling, and that is near and dear to my heart. And we are trying numerous ways to do it. We've even had Andrew and others out talking in our community to tell them what we're doing on board and how we're doing it. But it is an area that we really want to understand more and to get the story out. Obviously, things are changing, the media landscape. People have the attention span of less than a gnat. But we're trying to get in front of as many people, and it is something that we're working on.
I will say just leaning into fair enforcement innovations too, that has been very helpful to us. And I think into the future, some of you have been sort of around the country, just sort of understanding this space at APTA conferences, et cetera. Everybody is dealing with something similar right now in terms of public safety, fare evasion. It was mentioned even, I think, a little bit this morning, but you know, if you study kind of people's perceptions of safety in urban environments right now, and you think about all the things that's going around us right now, that has actually dropped. So we're fighting not only a public transit battle, but also a wanting to go downtown battle and those types of things. And so I really think the best thing we can do, to be honest, JC and I have had this conversation, Sam and I have had this conversation, is that storytelling piece of just being out there kind of talking through and inviting people to join us. And so I'm asking you for that same level. I know not every transit experience is going to be a good one, but you know, to the extent you can influence in your districts is, you know, give TriMet a chance again and give us feedback. You know, you can call the Security Operations Center. You can, you know, text 238-RIDE. You can get in touch with us and give us feedback on all the things that we put in to make that a safer experience.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and the more good numbers that come back from the work that you're doing, you know, this marketing campaign, if you will, builds itself.
Yeah.
That says, you know, over the last 4 years, we've improved, you know, here are the objective numbers. So, and I won't go on anymore to belabor this, but thank you guys for the work that you're doing. This is really, I think, essential to what we're doing to try to recapture some of the ridership we had in the past. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just wanted
Yes, go
to
ahead.
say a comment. I've just been quiet to just absorb this conversation and the presentation. And you know, I think I just want to continue to encourage us to, when we're talking about fare evasion, when we're talking about who's paying fare, who's not, to not make assumptions, right, about who those folks might be, who are and who aren't. I think there's a huge piece of this survey when we talk about fare evasion where we can continue to disaggregate the sample size and the data. And I, you know, we are creating a safe community, I think, by checking up on people, not just with fares, but with other needs that they may have. And I also just want to just give a huge shout out to the safety and security team because I see them every Thursday night for the most part. There's an activity called Night Strike that happens underneath the Burnside Bridge where there's church volunteers, mostly from churches that volunteer for this organization, and there's TriMet folks in uniform talking about hot passes, talking about our services, and the majority of the people who they serve are houseless folks in the community of downtown. And I would guarantee, like, I've been there, I volunteered, and 99% of those folks have hot passes, and 99% of those people take transit, they pay their fare, they're on our system regularly, and due to tough times, they are in the situation that they are. So I would push us again to continue to challenge our own assumptions, and let's face it, everyone has bias, right? Everyone, no one is not biased. And so I would just continue to challenge our assumptions, again, of who the fare riders are, who aren't. And I just remember a survey a couple years ago that was done where there was a public service campaign that was done about fare enforcement. We paid a marketing company. It didn't go well, it was what I remembered. We'd pay them a large pot of money to have this campaign that was about fare enforcement. And we received backlash from most of our riders saying, like, why is TriMet spending lots of money on this? I just want to make sure that my experience on transit is safe, and sometimes the safety and security piece is not necessarily, there isn't a direct correlation to fares and safety and security from that particular piece several years ago. I just remember, again, there was like a bar graph where it was like, people really care about safety and security. Majority of our riders at the time didn't care so much about whether or not their neighbors paid fare or not. And so, again, I just want us to, there's a lot of nuance, and so I just want us to be careful when we're moving forward of doing the code enforcement and reminding folks to pay their fare, but also not, unfairly targeting different community groups over others.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I loved that you saw that everyone had hop cards because even Roberta was just telling me this morning that she was on a train and everyone had their fare. Everyone had their fare, so that I take that to heart. One of the other things I wanted to share in this survey that we had done was one of the things that we saw when people said that they couldn't pay their fare, it's because they struggled to pay their fare. They could have struggled to afford it. But I wanted to note that more than 31,000 riders are actively using our reduced fare benefit as of October 2025, and that number is growing, and we are expecting record enrollment for the second year. So we do see those folks on that community on our trains, and we are actively trying to put passes into their hands one way or another. So it is something that we see and that we're working on.
And I just want to follow up real quickly, and I appreciate this conversation, appreciate your interest in this space. It's very important, all of you, and it's a great comment, Director Way. I go out with these teams a lot, and I'll just say, you're out on, and who pays fare or doesn't pay fare, who has fare, you do not know. I mean, you can make assumptions, but when you go through an entire bus, it's surprising to see who actually did or didn't, and I think that just illustrates we all have unconscious bias, right, that we're walking around with at times. That's why it's so important to go through the entire bus and treat everybody fairly. But a lot of times, and this goes back to where Director Kellogg was headed too, we hear from our friends and neighbors, there's people on there that don't pay fare. And oftentimes, I think they're pointing to people that actually might have valid fare. They're just down and out, and they're using the transit system like they were built years ago. So, so it's just an interesting space to be in. There's a lot here, but this is our community. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the progress. I've been on the board for 7 years now, so when I started on the board, the conversation was completely different in terms of FAIR and this narrative, and so I'm glad to see a lot of the changes that were made to be proactive, but also, again, have our riders at heart, so.
Okay, thank you, Director Way. Thank you for that. Back to you, General Manager. Oh.
Oh.
Nope, okay.
Ask and answer.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. JC, for your comments as well. Board, I do have some positive economic news to share with you. The global credit rating agency, KBRA, or Kroll Bond Rating Agency, has reaffirmed TriMet's AAA rating. AAA is the highest rating possible, and it reflects KBRA's opinion that TriMet's ability to repay payroll tax bonds is safe and stable, and signals that the agency is considered a low-risk investment by financial experts. So this comes after Moody's also reaffirms TriMet's AAA rating earlier this year for the same bonds. It's also that time again, this time of year again, that we have our regional certified public accounting firm, Eide Bailly, here to present results of their FY 2025 audit. So Director of Financial Services, Kara Fitzpatrick, joins us now, and she will introduce our presenters. So Kara, over to you.
Hello, good morning, board members. I'm Kara Fitzpatrick. I'm the Director of Financial Services. With me today is Ahmad Garibay, and he is the partner on our engagement, and he has a presentation to go over the results of our external financial audit from fiscal year 2025.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. This is the annual financial report for the district. I'm here to let you know what we did in terms of an audit and what the conclusions of that audit is. Next slide, please. So the scope of the audit is to ensure that the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respect. It is effectively an affirmation of what was previously presented to you by management in terms of the financial information. We come in after the fact, and it's effectively a confirmation process of the amounts that are reported on the financial statements. As part of the audit, we also look at your internal controls. And as also part of the audit, we report on your federal compliance and state compliance with the Oregon Municipal Corporation standards. Next slide, please. So we do the audit. We start the audit sometime in April, and it goes on all the way through October. And at the end, what we do is we tell you whether these financial statements are fairly stated in the form of what they call an opinion on these financial statements. And again, the audit is not a 100% testing of the financial information that was reported to you. It is a reasonable assurance. We sample, we confirm the material account balances in there, and we also incorporate additional audit procedures for the smaller balances that are reported on the financial statements. We take a look at your internal controls. As I mentioned, we come in multi-phases, interim phase, final phase, and the reporting phase, and we look at the manner that you process receipts, disbursements, and payroll. We take a look at your controls. We always change these procedures every now and then just to incorporate the element of unpredictability, which is a required audit standards. Next slide, please. I'm pleased to let you know that we had issued a clean opinion. They call it an unmodified opinion on these financial statements. And as I mentioned, we looked at your internal controls and we looked at your compliance requirements, and we are pleased to let you know that we are reporting no deficiencies in the internal controls and no non-compliance with government auditing standards. Next slide, please. You receive federal funding. The federal transit cluster is a significant component of your federal funding, and we audit that as well. This one is delayed this year, and the delay is because of the shutdown at the federal government. They give us an audit guide, and the audit guide is delayed. They gave us a draft, and so we did perform the testing based on that draft. And at this point, we have no findings to report, but we are still awaiting the federal final guidelines, audit guidelines, in order for us to issue that opinion. With respect to the Oregon Municipal Corporation, also we finalized this one as well, and we report no significant deficiencies or instances of non-compliance. Next slide, please. We are required to let you know that we are independent of the district. We are the independent auditors of the district, and alert you to the fact that there are estimates on these financial statements that are mainly related to your pension liability and your OPEB liabilities, and also taxes receivables is a significant estimate on the financial statements. Next slide, please. The good disclosures there in these financial statements about some of these estimates. Note 13 and 14 in the financial statements speaks to they call it a sensitivity analysis, changes in the way that your returns are on investments with respect to these pension plans, how it will impact your pension and OPEB liability. So that's a good disclosure to take a look at. And again, we had no adjustments to these financial statements, and we are required to let you know if we used specialists or consulted with other accountants with respect to the financial statements. So we report no such matters. Next slide, please. This year, the district implemented GASB statement number 101, which is related to compensated absences. It's a new reporting standard. It does not impact your cash flow. It is effectively reporting an additional liability on the financial statements, roughly $3 million related to compensated absences. It's they changed the method as to how it was measured, and again, the change was not significant. Definitely not from a cash flow perspective. We report no disagreements with management as well. And next slide, please. And as I mentioned, we rotate our audit procedures. We do expanded audit procedures. So this year we came in on June 30, and we went to your yards, and we looked at inventory accounting, ensuring that withdrawals and additions to the inventory are appropriately accounted for. We do what they call a floor-to-sheet and sheet-to-floor testing, and we are pleased to let you know that we report no exceptions with respect to the expanded audit procedures. This is the second year that the district applies to GFOA, the Government Finance Officer Association. In the first year, which was last year, was the first year, they did receive the award from GFOA, and we anticipate that they will continue to receive it in the subsequent years. It's always the first year that is the most significant, and then after that, it just becomes easier as we move along. Next slide, please. This is it, and with that, I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
Oh, that's fine. Director Kellogg?
Yeah, I just want to confirm, a couple of slides back, there was a significant estimate, and when that was on our payroll receivables, is that because of what was going on in the legislature or something else?
Payroll tax receivables.
It's payroll tax receivables.
Yeah.
And so the Department of Revenue at the state will give you the cash roughly 6 months after, because of the way that the tax returns are filed. And so we're in October, it had to be estimated, and that's what this is speaking to.
Okay, helpful, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'm turning it over to our general manager.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everything.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And these are posted online as well on TriMet.org.
A lot of the credit goes back to Finance Department. Again, as I mentioned, it's a confirmation process, so connecting with your bankers and your creditors is absolutely necessary. It's always a little difficult with that process, so management has been very cooperative in helping us get the information that we needed.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Okay, finally, as you are all aware, we are conducting important outreach this month, which will lead up to and help inform our service cuts that are necessary in the coming years to to help and assist in resolving our budget deficit. So as of Monday, the TriMet Service Cuts webpage on TriMet.org had been visited 128,000 times. And the survey that we have posted there has been completed 3,400 times. We are also hosting open houses to engage people about service priorities. 78 people attended our first 5 online events. Another 135 people attended our first 3 in-person open houses. And we're looking ahead, we have 4 more in-person events and 1 virtual event scheduled this month. Our planning and government affairs staff have also met with numerous jurisdictional partners, mayors, county commissioners, and even at JPAC last week to brief them on these service reductions. In-person events are also being held in each board director's district. These in-person events are great opportunities to talk directly with our planners and the outreach staff. People can go to TriMet.org/service cuts and weigh in online. The survey is open through October 31st. Staff will be reporting on the initial findings from these outreach event activities at our board retreat on November 12th. And with that, President Lewis, that concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Director. Thank you, General Manager. Reduced you to a director there. General Manager, for your report. Thank you. I did have just one final item that you and I had spoke about, and that is making decisions, listening to testimony. I encouraged JC and our General Manager to invite the board to take a tour, as the executive team did, the full length of 82nd, so that we can see ourselves. A lot of the comments, it's hard to imagine what is putting ourselves out there and seeing. So hopefully you'll plan that and all of us will participate. Okay.
I think that'd be great. I took the exec team out. We went out and rode the full route of the Line 72. So we'll get it scheduled.
Thank you. Okay, we will turn now to our consent agenda. Items appearing on the consent agenda are considered routine and may be approved by the board in one blanket motion. This morning, the consent agenda consists of 3 items: approving the minutes from our last meeting, board meeting, September 24th, 2025, approving Resolution 25-1050, authorizing a contract modification with Pavilion Connect and Protect for building access control maintenance, repair, and installation, and for intrusion detection consulting services. And lastly, approving Resolution 25-1051, authorizing a contract modification with David Evan and Associates for design services for Beaverton and Oregon City Transit Centers redesign renovations. Does any director wish to have any of these items removed from the consent agenda? Checking virtual. No? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda, items on the agenda for the consent agenda?
President Lentz, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second. We will now call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we will move to our regular agenda resolution. We will consider Resolution 25-1052, adopting an amendment to TriMet's criminal records policy. Mr. General Manager, do you have any comments on this resolution?
President Lewis, members of the board, TriMet's human resources policy on criminal records was adopted by board resolution. Amendments to the policy are also required board action. thus the resolution before you today. This policy deals with TriMet's legal requirement to conduct criminal record checks of job applicants and employees who operate vehicles that transport passengers. It also allows background checks of individuals who may have access to critical infrastructure or security-sensitive facilities or information at TriMet. TriMet HR policy currently contains a look-back period which considers a certain time frame from the date of conviction for different types of classes of offenses. If an applicant has a conviction within this look-back period, they may be disqualified from employment. The policy does not address circumstances where a job applicant or current employee is a registered sex offender whose conviction date falls outside the look-back period. TriMet would like to retain discretion to consider the records and circumstances of registered sex offenders whose offense falls outside the lookout period. This resolution would amend the policy to allow TriMet to decline a job applicant for an operator or other safety-sensitive position if a criminal records check indicates the applicant is a registered sex offender within any jurisdiction regardless of the conviction date. And I recommend your approval.
Sorry, is there a motion to approve Resolution 251052?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. It has been moved and second. Does anyone wish to comment before we vote? Okay. Seeing and hearing no comments, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, that concludes our formal resolutions, at least for one that we have. And I do have one more resolution, and with some sadness, I would like to report that our director, Kathy Way, is resigning from the TriMet Board of Directors effective this month, and I would like to read the resolution. Resolution honoring Kathy Way. Resolution of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon honoring Kathy Way for her services as a member of the TriMet Board of Directors. Whereas the TriMet Metropolitan, I'll just say TriMet, okay, we're short, and its Board of Directors wish to honor and celebrate Kathy Way for her dedicated, insightful, and steadfast service on the board. And whereas Kathy Way was appointed to the Board of Directors on May 25th, 2018, before Moses, representing Clackamas County with distinction, doesn't say that, distinction, integrity, and deep commitment to the people she served in TriMet District 7. And whereas in 2023, Kathy Way made history as the youngest person and the first individual of Asian descent to serve as Secretary-Treasurer of the TriMet Board, a milestone that advanced representation and inspired emerging generations for civic leaders. And whereas in her role as Secretary-Treasurer in 2023, Kathy Way championed transparency, fiscal responsibility, accountability, and community-oriented budgeting, ensuring that TriMet's resources were aligned with its mission and its values. And whereas Kathy Way served on TriMet's Transit Equity Advisory Committee, where she amplified the voices of transit-dependent riders, advocating for accessibility and inclusion, and promoting the principles that every decision should reflect the lived experiences of those who rely on transit. And whereas during her tenure on the board, TriMet Board, Kathy Way helped to guide the agency through unprecedented challenges of COVID-19 pandemic, support major capital projects such as the Division Transit Project and the 82nd Avenue Transit Corridor, and strengthen TriMet's commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion. And whereas Kathy's courage to speak truth, ask hard questions, and elevate equity enrich the quality of board deliberation, and strengthen TriMet's commitment to accountability and public trust. She leaves a legacy, try not to cry here, of vision, integrity, and passion, marking her as a respected voice for community and a champion for inclusive transportation for all. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the TriMet Board of Directors and TriMet staff hereby express their deepest gratitude, admiration, and appreciation for Kathy Way for her exemplary service and lasting contributions to the TriMet community. Be it further resolved that a framed copy of this resolution be presented to Kathy Way as an expression of the board's respect, appreciation, and esteem for her outstanding leadership and dedication.
We still have to take a picture, though, before we go. I wasn't prepared for all of this, and thank you so much. Didn't have anything formally written, but it's been a ride. Almost 8 years on this board, and as President Lewis mentioned, I was quite literally the new kid on the block, being the youngest person to be nominated by then Governor Brown to serve, and never in a million years I thought I'd be serving on a transit agency, but you know, my journey with TriMet started when I was a high school kid in Portland, and transit was how I got around. And to this day, my family in Happy Valley still rely a lot on TriMet and our buses and our rails to get to work in different places. And so I always carry not only my own personal story of how we use transit in this city and in this state that we love, but also hopefully trying to inspire the younger generation that is going to continue this work to be bold, to speak courageously, and to just make this place better. That was why I wanted to serve and be a voice on the board, and it's been an honor to serve with our current board, with President Lewis, with Vice President Kim, Director Flowers, and I know, Director Frisbee can't be here today, sorry. Also just want to give a shout out to Director Edwards and Director Gonzalez as well. We were like the three that all joined the board together now many, many years ago, which is just time has flown by. So, and of course, General Manager DeSue, thank you again for all of your leadership and all of just your support as well. And to the staff, last but not least, thank you again so much for either working directly with me or responding to emails or concerns that I've had. Just thank you just for this wonderful community that you've created here for not only TriMet, but for our region. And I am just continue to be hopeful and optimistic about all of the great things that TriMet is going to continue to do for our riders and for our state. So thank you so much.
Wait, there's more.
Oh, great.
Is there a motion to approve this resolution 251053?
So moved.
Oh, yay.
Seconded.
Okay, it's second. It has been moved and second. Does anyone wish to comment before we make the vote, and also comments from General Manager Dessou? Anyone on? Director Kim?
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy, for your service. You've made history then, and you have been. I really admire your passion, and I think Dr. Lewis did a great job mentioning, your intellectual honesty about, just asking hard questions and asking good questions. I mean, hard questions have such a negative connotation, but good questions that the public needs to hear and that we need to think through. So I know you've got some exciting life updates as well. So I will be rooting for you personally and professionally for all that's ahead. Thank you, my friend.
I just want to take a moment. I joined in 2019. Director Way was on in 2018, and I just want to take a moment to recognize Director Kathy Way for her outstanding service on this board. And want to give you a little bit of insight. Since Director Way joined us in 2018, she's been a very steady and principled voice, bringing both her professional background and community advocacy and her lived experience to every discussion that we have here on this board. She reminds us time and time again that our decisions must reflect the needs of the people who depend on TriMet. And we just heard it from her today in a comment that we were talking about. Kathy also made history, as you stated, President, becoming the youngest person at the time and the first Asian descent to serve as Secretary Treasurer on this board. And during her tenure, she helped guide this agency through the pandemic, supported major service and capital improvements, and really pressed us to strengthen our commitment to the community. And there's been many meetings that you and I have had on this. Serving on this board is a volunteer role, and Director Way gave her time generously with thoughtfulness and conviction. Director Way, on behalf of TriMet leadership team, our staff, and countless riders, thank you, thank you, thank you for your unwavering dedication to the communities that we serve. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Other comments? Seeing and hearing none. Okay, I will call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Once again, let's do aye again, loud and clear for her. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion is carried. In a few minutes, we'll have the opportunity to take a photo with Director Way. Quick housekeeping matters. For the benefit of the public, I want to say that the General Manager's deliverables are the annual performance objectives that the board uses to assess the General Manager's performance each year. They were in the packet. As we do, we kick off the process for setting these deliverables several months ago with the work group comprised of several board members. I want to thank wholeheartedly Director Flowers and Director Frisbee for participating in that work group with me. And the work group gathered input from the General Manager as well as the entire board during our executive session deliverables for 2026 fiscal year. I also want to thank Vice President Kim for volunteering to take all the comments, the edits, and incorporate them into the final draft. Then I met with the General Manager last week to review, and upon agreement, the final version was and is part of your board packet and was also published on the TriMet website. Thank you again to the board. We have concluded the deliverables for 2026. Done. That concludes our formal public business for today. At this time, the board's business meeting is adjourned. Please note that our next meeting will be at 1 Main Place here, not the other place we were going, Wednesday, December 10th. There's the retreat in November. Okay. We can now break and have a picture. Okay. And then the board will convene to the executive session that is to follow. Okay.